Scott Young, then, if I'm understanding you, can get away with the assault on this person. If he meets his conditions, it'll be wiped clear, and he won't actually have a criminal record, and as such, is free to do this again. And if he does, there will be no more serious punishment.
Well, and it's interesting, I think. I mean, what do you think? Have you heard anything in any other form of media discussing the sentence yourself?
Discussing in what way?
Like in terms of this conditional sentence, what exactly it means, or,
well,
how it comes to bear on his future.
I had a bit of an interview yesterday with Patrick Allen Betts, who, of course, is the man who ran against Scott Young in the last municipal election, and he got an email from a source of his that was wondering about that exact question. What does this conditional sentence mean? And my understanding of it was that if he was a good boy and did everything he was supposed to do, that he wouldn't be forced to spend any time in jail or do anything more serious. That was my understanding, and again, as I said, I'm not a legal expert, so that could be completely wrong. Hearing your story suggests to me now that it means that he could just, if he's good, it won't be an issue. And I'm just wondering what happens next if he should, during the next 2 years, or next year, I guess, for his 1 year conditional sentence. What happens in the next year if he screws up?
And that's what happens. I mean, the conditional discharge of a record is not, and it's a two-stage process. What happened with my ex was, at the end of his sentence, when you go to your final, I guess, probationary meeting or whatever happened, his probation officer recommended to the court, yes, okay, that you get your conditional discharge because you completed all the conditions of your sentence, which means you go to counseling, you sit there, and in Scott's case, he has to do community service, which is quite ridiculous considering, the offense that he did. Yeah. I know some people think it's minor, but depending on, the only thing I'd like to see that guy doing is picking up garbage or roadkill, to be honest. I couldn't imagine him doing any other kind of community service. But that is my understanding, is that at the end of this, is that there'll probably be some sort of hearing with the probation officer. Was he a good boy? Did he do this? Blah, blah, blah. And he'll be given a conditional discharge, which means the record is gone.
See,
now, I could be totally wrong. Like I said, I'm not a legal expert, but that has been my experience personally with the conditional sentence leads to conditional discharge of the record if he's completed all the conditions. And I think it's definitely something that bears looking into, because wouldn't that be ironic if there was no lasting record of this whatsoever, considering the psychologist says there is a moderate risk of reoffense to any future relationship.
Absolutely, yeah, that's correct. And, we're going to find out what that means, because I'm curious now, and I know a lot of our listeners will be curious, what does this conditional sentence mean? But, Laila, I get accused all the time of being crazy and, having a weird hairstyle and not exactly being a conventionally normal person, but is it just me, or is assault not a crime? And if so, don't people who commit crimes get this weird little thing called a criminal record? Is that not the way this country works?
You would think that it would work that way, and I don't think a lot of the general public are aware about this little thing called a conditional discharge. There's sort of this idea that I guess you can put degrees of seriousness as crime. And I mean, a crime is a crime. You can look at it that way. You can say, well, if shoplifting is bad as murder, well, obviously it's not. And so,
but shoplifting stays on your record. If you commit if I go into Walmart and I steal a TV, that stays on my record. If I go assault someone, I can beat someone up in public. I can smash their face in, and I can get a conditional discharge. To me, that makes no sense.
People could, this conditional discharge may apply to other crimes, and we don't know about this. There's a lot of things that happen in the justice system that are absolutely, atrocious when they actually come to light to the public. Things like sexual offenders. I personally don't believe, and a lot of people, are of the same mind, that, sexual molesters can't be rehabilitated. It shows time and time again that they really can't be rehabilitated. So why the hell do they keep letting these guys out? Why do they keep giving them these, let's say it's don't go close to a playground. Well, who's going to keep this guy away from a playground once he's out? I mean, there's all sorts of injustices that happen within the judicial system and the sentencing process. Right. And to me, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out that this conditional discharge is used in all sorts of crimes, and probably what they consider to be a lesser gradient of a crime. So I would love to hear from the Crown Counsel in this case and find out, is this what's going to happen down the road? Is he going to receive a conditional discharge? Because it doesn't always happen. I mean, if you don't, follow all the conditions, you don't complete all the conditions, you don't report, etc., 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 you might not receive the conditional discharge. But in many cases of domestic assault, if it's a first-time offense and they've been good and the partners have reconciled, or the guy's completed his counseling, he sat there and listened to some guy spout off about anger management for 15 sessions. The PO, I mean, these guys are overwhelmed. Oh, yeah, good boy, check, yeah, I recommend a conditional discharge. Like, why should the guy have a lasting record for something that they think happened in the heat of the moment?
Yeah.
And it's a joke. If that happens to Scott, I'll just be shocked.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, my understanding is that this guy here needs to have a criminal record for what he did, and if he doesn't get one, I'll be with you on that, and some heads are going to have to roll on that one, because I just don't understand the logic of that. But I mean, let me ask you this question. Hearing this sentence and hearing about this, what does poor Colleen Preston think about it? Because I know you spoke to her briefly once, the only media person that Colleen would trust to speak to because of your incident. And I mean, that says a lot about your personal integrity, that she would trust you. What is poor Colleen Preston going to think if firstly, about this ridiculous house arrest and curfew sentence that he was given? I mean, curfew. I mean, that's what you give kids who sneak out in the middle of the night. They get curfews. What is Colleen going to think about that? And then what is she going to think if this guy here manages to get away without a criminal record for what he did to her?
Well, I've been in touch with Colleen several times, and just offering support and really just trying to be there for her as someone who's been through the situation myself. And I know that she has talked briefly with News 1130 after the sentencing. We did get a hold of her and get a comment. And I think Colleen will be telling her side of the story soon, because as you heard on the courthouse steps, Scott believes that there is absolutely no substance to the harassment charges, whereas in her quote with News 1130, Colleen did say, there was 10 months of harassment. And there is a long history behind this. It also leads to the question of the fact that they dropped those harassment charges and he thinks that there was no substance to them. But how did the judge even reach the conclusion that she did, considering there were 2 other incidents prior to the incident with Colleen Preston involving an ex-wife and I believe an ex-girlfriend or another ex-wife? There are actual court documents that were received by Ted Chernecki of Global News that show that there had been 2 other restraining orders issued.
Well,
and he had an incident with an ex-wife that was routed through counseling. They received the charges and they routed through counseling. So to me, one woman might be, off the cuff. Maybe, I'm just saying maybe. But 3 women, 3 separate women, 3 incidents, 3, obviously some sort of violence or some incident that involved, was severe enough to involve police involvement or restraining orders. What was this judge thinking?
Well, Laila. Come on, my dear. Now, come on. I have so much respect for you. How can you not see the obvious answer? I mean, you can't put someone who was a mayor to the same standard that you or I would be held to. Come on, don't be silly. He's the mayor of Port Coquitlam. I mean, it's Port Coquitlam. It's like one of the most important cities in the entire Tri-City area.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's beyond me. Well, my understanding is that Scott Young has friends in important places, so. Who knows?
Well, I mean,
who knows what the connections are behind the scenes? Who knows?
What really? I'm saying is, I mean,
I don't think that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the fact of the matter is he's mayor. That's it. That's the reason why he's got this weird sentence. That's why he's got this weird conditional sentence, this weird curfew, and that's why he might walk without a criminal sentence, because he is the mayor of the king and emperor, as Patrick said, of Port Coquitlam.
And didn't we hear during the trial, mayors are underpaid as
yes.
It is. He's done so much community service. Give me a break. The question now is going to be, how is this city going to handle this? I know for a fact that, the city did request assistance from Ida Chong in terms, they knew that really there's nothing in legislation currently to get rid of them. In the council's defense, they did try to approach Ida and say, hey, what can we do? Can we do this thing? And Ida said, no, you have to take it to the Union of BC Municipalities and bring it before them. The recall process with petitions and how that comes to bear with different cities of different sizes and how many votes it takes to recall.
Yeah, we all know how great that recall legislation is.